My name's Adam Gillison. I'm the manager of Jumbo Records record shop in Leeds city centre. Been doing the job for about 3 years, but I've been with Jumbo for 20 years. Basically an independent record shop. The shop itself was set up in 1971 by a chap called Hunter Smith. I stick some music on straight away. I like having music on around me all the time when I'm in the shop. First thing in the morning, I probably quite often get on with some ordering, maybe some cashing up if that needs to be done, stuff like that. And then when other members of staff come in, sometimes we have a staff meeting. Sometimes we might just have little individual chats if they, we're just trying to discuss jobs that need doing for that day or for the week ahead. And stuff like that. That period just before the shop opens is quite an important one because you can concentrate on getting stuff done without needing to look after customers at the same time. So it's like quite a productive period of the day, that first part of the day. And our sort of busiest period of the day is lunchtime. It's a question of concentrating on serving customers because we have lots of people come in on their break. Sometimes we embellish it a bit by having a band playing in the shop. We have bands, maybe every 3 weeks or so. Not always at lunchtime, but it is a good time because it's something that, if you're on your lunch break and you can sort of wander up and sort of see a bit of live music in your lunch break, it's the sort of thing that I would want to do in my lunch break, and I'm lucky enough to actually do it for my job. So it can be a bit of a hectic time, but that's the nature of working in a shop. Really, you do have hectic periods. It's something that we're quite passionate about, really, is searching out records for people. If it's possible to get them, then we will do. It's great when you see a satisfied customer at the end of the day. And then we sometimes have a little busy spell at the end of the day. Again, people sort of on their way home from work. And occasionally we'll have an in-store at that time, usually on a Friday. So we might sometimes have some more live music then on, at the end of the afternoon. When I was at school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But I was really into music, and towards the later end of my school time, I got a job which I didn't realise how significant would be later on, which was basically just working as a shelf stacker in Marks and Spencer's before school. In fact, I ended up working there on and off for a few years, and I think that that was a really important part, just getting some good retail experience. I went to Polytechnic and studied, and I still, at the end of that, didn't really know what I wanted to do, but the idea was starting to form in my mind, record shop. I spent so much time in record shops, and I started to think that is actually something that I might be able to do as a job that I would actually really enjoy doing. And as luck would have it, a job came up in my local record shop, which from memory it was initially a temporary job just for Christmas, but I think they decided that they needed to keep me on afterwards, and so I stayed there and ended up staying there for 5 years. Over that time I learned a fair bit about the record industry, I would say, and it really opened my ears to a lot of music. Those few years were very important. Then at the end of that, I moved away from the Midlands, moved to Leeds, and as luck would have it, within a couple of weeks of living in Leeds, I was working in Jumbo. You need to be very patient, I think. One part of your job is, if you don't like being distracted in your work, forget it, because you are going to get distracted. It's the nature of the job. You've always got people to deal with. Now, personally, that's what I love doing. I like dealing with members of the public. It's a really important part of my job and of the role of the shop. And I think you've got to want that. You've got to want to work with people, talk to people. With any job, really, you have to be able to live with a bit of stress. And I'd say that when something stressful happens, sometimes you just want to be able to concentrate on it. But you just have to be able to juggle things. It's just the way it is, and not get too worried about it is a really important part of it. I think the time I've spent studying over the years, although it's not obviously a part of what I do, I think did play an important role in getting me where I am. And whether that's partly to do with when I was at school, the time I spent at Polytechnic, those things, I think the skills that you learn from that in terms of organisation, being able to combine different jobs without it becoming too stressful, and keeping things manageable. I think they're really vital skills for me in my job. I think that you can do my job without a degree. I certainly wouldn't dispute that, but I would definitely say that the time I spent in education has certainly benefited me and helped me to get where I am. I would say that to some extent, no job is completely secure, and I'd say that working in or managing a record shop is, that's true of that as well. That said, I feel that as a shop we're a very strong organisation. We've been going for over 40 years, and we're quite an experienced team of people. So I think we all feel reasonably secure in our jobs, and some of that also is the fact that we are so passionate about our work that we'll go to the nth degree to make sure that everything's okay here. A really important part of keeping a record shop secure is looking after your customers. It's something that, as I've already said, we really like serving our customers, and so you really have to balance at least, a few things really. I'd say that one thing is you have your regular customers, some of whom will come in every week, sometimes more than once a week, and some of it is just looking out for things for them, really. Some of those customers come in with a list of things and sort of say, this is what I want this week. Others just come in and say, what's new this week? Either way, you've got to be prepared for that. And so I suppose, keeping in touch with music media, whether it's online or printed media, is a really important part of that. Now, the other aspect of it is making sure that the customer who's never been in before will hopefully have an enjoyable experience. If you're lucky, come back. If you're even luckier, they might tell somebody else. If you're even luckier, they might tell a few people. So customer service in that point of view is obviously important just in terms of talking to them when they come to the counter. But it's also really important in terms of making sure that we've got the right stock in the shop at any one time. But we like to go fairly deep into everything we do. And so that experience of always reading about things, whether they're new things or old things, sometimes it can be something like, oh, wow, this record looks amazing. It came out in 1974 and I've never heard of it. And, digging those out and stocking those in the shop, and then you have the pleasure of seeing somebody coming into the shop and maybe they've read the same article and picking it up and sort of say, wow, you can get this record. And those sort of things are really important for the running of the shop. Most of my work is done in the shop, and for the simple reason that I can do it better here. I've got all the things around me that I need, but also we're obviously reliant on our customers, so we need to have people in the shop. That said, sometimes I do have to disappear in the back for an hour or two if there's something really important that needs doing, some important piece of paperwork. Sometimes I will actually work from home. There's aspects of my job I can do at home, particularly ordering and so on, and I can sort of rattle through that quite quickly sometimes at home. There is a little bit of travelling around involved in my job as well. Some of that is to do with looking at other record shops. So I've always got an eye on things that other people do that sort of think, oh well, would that work well in Jumbo? And so there's quite a lot of camaraderie between independent record shops, and so we do actually sort of go and meet up a few times a year to discuss ideas, plans that we can all do that would help each other. Sometimes just bits of advice that we can give or receive. So there's that element as well. So there's a little bit of travelling around involved in that. It's really important, I think, to develop links with your local community and with your work community. By local community, I really mean other shops in the city centre, other music-related businesses in the city centre, and further afield as well. There might be other ones sort of around Yorkshire, for example, that you need to link up with as well. From our point of view, the music venues are a really important part of that. We sell a lot of concert tickets, and keeping a good relationship with the local venues is really important for you and for them. We do speak to record labels on a fairly regular basis, but the people that we deal with more are record distributors, and the simple reason that we for dealing with distributors rather than labels is that we don't have to deal with so many people. It would be impossible to deal with every record label in the world. I think that day-to-day challenges are always there. Just making sure that as many of the jobs that you've got at the beginning of the day are finished at the end of the day. So that's, I guess, the nature of any job. I think that the long-term challenge really is to make sure that your shop stays relevant. So on one level, our customers tend to like us as we are, and a lot of them have been coming here for years, sometimes decades, and changing things too drastically isn't something that a lot of people want. They like us as we are to some extent, but at the same time, you can't stagnate. You have to change things a little bit. You have to adapt to the times. Sometimes it's things that you don't want to adapt to, and sometimes it's things that you initiate for yourself. Everyone here is a music nut, and so to some extent there isn't any distinction. We're always bringing ideas from outside the shop into the shop, and so in that sense there isn't any work-life distinction at all. But on the other hand, it is good for you in whatever job you do to sometimes just close off from it, and it's good for your own well-being, and I think it's good for your work as well, just to sort of give yourself a little bit of space sometimes. So you have to just try and find the right balance. It's very important. To some extent, it's just a privilege to be working here and surrounded by music all day. It's something that I'm crazy about in my spare time, and so what better than to be doing a job that's something that you sort of share with your spare time. Just sort of having access to tons of records, and we have sort of a staff discount scheme, as most shops do, and stuff like that. So, but I think overall as a job, it's just, I feel that having the opportunity to listen to music and share music with your friends and with customers, that is one of the fantastic things about the job. First of all, learn. So get a good education. It's whatever job you do, it will stand you in good stead. And don't forget that you can always learn on the job. It's good to develop a thick skin, and don't be too sensitive. Try not to get too stressed. It's a record shop. It's a great place to work. So I think that that you try and keep things in perspective. Just be passionate about it. If you're really passionate about music, if you're passionate about anything, then just really go for it. I think Leeds has got an incredible live music scene, and it has done for a long time, certainly all the time I've lived here. And one of the keys that I think is having a good balance. So you've got sort of quite sort of DIY venues, if you want to call them that, the smaller end of things, where people can just go and book a room in a pub, whether it's the Packhorse or Wharf Chambers, to the sort of medium-sized venues like Brudenell Social Club and Belgrave Music Hall. And then you've got two universities, and then you've got the sort of really big venues like the O2 and the Arena. And I think that having all those different parts to it are what makes such a strong music scene. you know, if you have got a good live music scene, the knock-on effect to producing local musicians is huge. There's always places, there's always an outlet for them to play. I mean, that's the important thing. But also, if you see live musicians on stage, a lot of the time you want to do it yourself. It's a natural reaction for people, and we definitely have our part in it. You know, on a sort of more obvious business level, it's dealing with local promoters and venues and selling tickets for them. We also provide an advertising space for a lot of those bands. So if you walk into Jumbo and look around the walls, you'll see them plastered with posters for gigs. And we know that customers like to come in and just have a gaze around at what's coming up. From a recorded music side of things, that's very important to us as well. We have like a local band section in the shop. If you're a local musician or a local band and you've self-produced a record or a CD, you can walk in with a pile of them and we'll take them and try and sell them. And it's what's known in the music industry as sale or return. So shops like us will take those sort of things and sell what we can and give you them back at the end and pay you for what we've sold. I think, you know, from that point of view, that's like a long tradition of independent record shops, and it's something that for me is a very important part of what we do. We are all sort of quite proud of the Leeds music scene because it is such a good one, and it has been such a good one for so long, and it's just really important to keep that going and just doing whatever you can to support it.